summer 2022, and the Southern Pennines have been beckoning to 400 or so entrants in the Long Distance Walkers Association's annual 100-mile challenge, scheduled for the weekend of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebrations. But a rugged band of veterans had already tested the route of the Trans-Pennine 100 a few weeks in advance. 29 set out across South Yorkshire on the traditional Marshals Walk, and remarkably, all 29 made it beyond the breakfast stop. They strode along the Trans-Pennine Trail and then over Black Hill and the infamous Laddow Rocks, and then doubled back along ridges and riverside to Hathersedge. From there they would weave their way along Stanage Edge, Warncliffe Crags and the Wentworth Woodhouse Estate to Elsecar and back to the start at Wombwell. By the end of the second day, only 3 walkers had retired. Another 4 would join them towards midnight. But 2 defiantly pressed on at the back of the field, despite the doubts of those who were anxiously watching the trackers at event headquarters as the 48-hour time limit drew close. One of them, Neil Mansfield, wrote about the experience for the benefit of entrants on the main walk who might not have been feeling nervous enough already. Would Neil complete his 29th 100? The odds were against. Even after the big event itself, his account gives a flavour of a journey filled with beauty, drama, and railway history. Neil likes trains.
Well, the route of the Trans-Pennine 100 is an interesting one and well thought out. First 12 miles or so, it's along disused railway lines, so it's a great temptation to go very quickly. So for train fans in particular, enjoy the first 2 miles or so of the famous Worsborough Bank, which is 1 in 40, which is interestingly unrelenting even on foot. Imagine Gresley's U1 Garrett loco struggling up that with a heavy coal train and possibly 2 firemen working flat out. After Penistone, the route twists about, but navigation is easy and there are good views, especially looking down on Holmfirth. For the Marshals Walk, we had a small checkpoint in a private garden at Holmbridge, serving the most fantastic food, and there was even a kids' swing too to play on, which I did. After Holmbridge, there's steady climbing all the way over Black Hill. The route was easy to follow, but take care if the paving slabs are wet. After Black Hill summit, there's a long descent over Laddow Rocks on the Pennine Way. Pay extra careful attention on this section, because there are steep drops over the side. The main walk officially starts at 9 AM to get people through before dark. I traversed it at dusk on the 30th of April, but you'll get more daylight. If Crowden is lit, you will see it in about an hour and a half before you get to it, which is a bit demoralising in some ways, but reassuring in others. The descent needs care because it's rutted, and the rutted contains stones to roll your feet. Consider poles. I didn't, and in the dark the air was thick with blue language. After Crowden checkpoint is much easier, and a good chunk is on the old Woodhead route, as we train people call it. It was one of the first intercity electric railways, and Class 76s trundled over it until 1981. It wiggles through Hatfield and a country park, and then you descend a steep slope to pass below the viaduct at Dinting Junction. There's a bit further to go to get to the Scout Hut. On to Hayfield on the Pennine Bridleway. Did that at night. The next piece took us on high tracks past Mount Famine and South Head and over Rush-Up Edge to Mam Nick, where there was a car park checkpoint. The daylight arrived en route. Our checkpoint at Mam Nick was rudimentary, but the most fantastic food appeared. You leave and you think it will be a big pull up to Man Tor, but it isn't. It's all on a pitch path. It's a piece of cake. Then along the spectacular ridge to Loose Hill, the views either side were excellent. Our weather was a bit iffy, but it was still good. descend to Hope, which was our breakfast stop. After Hope, some wiggling about and an awkward grassy side ascent to a low ridge. The route then follows the river through many gates to a main road, then reverses west and you swing into Hathersage, the breakfast stop on the main event. From Hathersage, a long but gentle ascent to Stanage Edge. The views make it all worthwhile. You follow the track through rock and discarded millstones. Go right to the end of the edge and cross the main road to the Delights of Moscow checkpoint. All being well, I'll be in the marquee to welcome you. After Moscow, the route passes through Bradwell. Disastrously, the brewery was closed, but there were fine views to be had approaching Bradwell by the church and then near the brewery whilst wistfully thinking of the fine beverages that lay within. If you're like me, you'll be out for a second night. Leaving checkpoint 12 at Worrell took us downwards into a wood which I had some problems with. Yes, I am a traditionalist without GPS or smart thingy. The instructions talk about keeping away from the right-hand side of the wood. A much wider set of paths ascend very gently to the left. I took these, but they are not the route. After a couple of turns and about 7 fields, you'll think, I've got this section in the bag now, but you haven't. Soon after turning up a wide industrial road, I entered more woodland. As with all woods on the second night, this is where mistakes happen. I went about 3/4 mile off the route. The section along Warncliffe Crags is quite slow in the dark. At either checkpoint 13 or 14, you can tell it was the second night. We were assaulted by a gang of fish finger sandwiches. To say they were enjoyable would be an understatement. As we neared checkpoint 15, a body wagon, operating in the style of the child catcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, kidnapped 3 of our merry band of 5 from the roadside. Your correspondent and his trusty colleague Adrian declined the invitation and we made haste to the checkpoint. Adrian is in charge of transport on the main event, which is probably why he declined the transport on the practice event. On arrival, we were faced with tales of gloom and doom about how the 48 hours would be up, and it would be best to sack it now, given the checkpoint was on borrowed time. Our sweeper was still happy to continue, and although tempted, I didn't say, I've done 28 of these things, you know. I just said that after 90 miles, I was still up for completing the distance, and I wasn't bothered about the certificate. This was a bizarre concept for the marshal, who let us on our merry way. Fortified by the double coffee from the checkpoint and the increasing daylight, we, keeping the railway theme, fully opened the regulator and went into the long extended loop around Wentworth Park. We left the checkpoint 35 minutes down, but in the best of railway traditions, we made up the time and roared into Elscar 15 minutes early, averaging 4 miles an hour on the penultimate section of 6 miles, and I'll be dining out on that one for months. Then, the final push for home. I'm glad the sweeper was with us, because just about every footpath was called the Trans-Pennine Trail, and we seemed to be going all over the place. Finally, we neared the school, and a rapturous reception awaited. Many didn't think we would do it, but there were 27 minutes to spare. The taste of victory was sweet.
This way, Ray. Oh, good to see you. Sorry about the reek. Oh,
yeah, must have been.
hey, thank you. All right, morning, Tom.
Morning.
All right,
How
mate.
you doing, all right?
Yeah.
You too, all right?
I wrote us off this thing.
Is that your 29th?
Yeah.
Are you going to do any more?
Oh yeah, we'll be back again. Yeah.
Just a bit of milk, sugar.
Oh, sorry about that.